Hello, good morning and welcome. Today we'll be discussing the last chapter of the first year topic. Chapter number 22, Chemical Coordination and Control. Okay, we'll be directly going to the questions. Select the true statement. This is regarding pituitary. Before going to the options, you should understand what is pituitary. It is also called hypophysis. It is attached to the hypothalamus. It is hypophysis attached to the, it is not hypo. It is hypophysis. Okay, that's why it is called adenohypophysis and neurohypophysis, anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary. Okay, anterior pituitary is not a part of brain. It is developing from a structure called Rathke's pocket, arising from the roof of the buccal cavity, and this forms pars distalis, and pars intermedia is completely fused with the anterior pituitary in adult. So, anterior pituitary or adenohypophysis is actually the secretory part, which is made up of pars distalis and pars intermedia. Pars intermedia we cannot distinguish; it is completely fused in adults. Whereas posterior pituitary, which is called neurohypophysis, is actually an extension of the brain. It's a part of the nervous system, and that is why it is called pars nervosa. It is not producing any hormone of its own. It is just producing the storing the hormone produced by the hypothalamus. Okay, posterior pituitary is just storing the hormones produced by the hypothalamus and secreting it into the blood. So this is the composition. Now you go. Pars distalis is divided into anatomically. No, pars distalis is only a part of the anterior pituitary or adenohypophysis. Adenohypophysis consists of two portions. No, adenohypophysis, see, pars distalis and pars nervosa. Pars nervosa is posterior. In humans, pars intermedia is almost merged with the pars intermedia fused with the pars distalis. Pars nervosa synthesizes and releases. Pars nervosa is not at all producing any hormone. It is a posterior pituitary. So that also is wrong. So all of them are false. Identify the endocrine gland based upon the clue. Act on smooth muscles of the body. So what is that? Smooth muscles of the body. Contraction as oxytocin. It is, the term means comfortable birth or easy birth, because the uterine walls are contracted because of this one. So it is oxytocin. Synthesis of steroid hormones. See, steroid hormones are produced by a large number of, you are having adrenal cortex also, will wait. Stimulate the mammary glands for milk ejection. That is also oxytocin. So it is confirmed. So 1 and 3, oxytocin. Then act on distal tubules for water reabsorption. That is ADH. So oxytocin, vasopressin. These are the two hormones that are all produced by the posterior, released by the posterior pituitary, actually produced by the hypothalamus and released by the posterior pituitary. So 1, 3 and 4 should be hypothalamus. Okay. So there is only one option, and the second will be adrenal gland. Of course, adrenal cortex is producing steroid hormones, large number of hormones. Correct. So the option goes to box. Thyroid gland is composed of two lobes which are located on either side. Remember, this is called the butterfly gland. because of its shape. It consists of two lobes which are connected together by an isthmus, a bridge. That's why it is called butterfly gland, largest endocrine gland. So thyroid gland is composed of two lobes which are located on either side of the trachea. Correct? Both the lobes are connected together with a flap of connective tissue called infundibulum. No, it is isthmus. This is called isthmus. Isthmus means bridge. Isthmus means bridge. The thyroid gland is composed of follicles and stromal tissues, correct? The structure of the thyroid is similar to that of the ovary. Both are having same follicles in stroma, connective tissue matrix. Parafollicular cells synthesize two hormones. Now, follicular cells produce the T3, T4, which are called the thyroxines. And parafollicular cells are producing thyrocalcitonin, or simply we can call it as calcitonin. So that is wrong. Aldosterone, which acts mainly on the renal tubules, has following role. What are the role of this one? Aldosterone is responsible for the absorption of sodium, so that osmolarity of the blood is increasing, thereby ability to absorb water. It is also responsible for elimination of potassium. You can see that in the DCT. Sodium potassium balance. Sodium is absorbed and potassium is released. That's how sodium potassium balance is maintained. Reabsorption of phosphate. No, phosphates are all released. It is not reabsorption, release. So that is wrong. Maintenance of electrolytes, sodium potassium balance, thereby it is also increase in the blood pressure. When there is more sodium, that will be increasing the osmolarity of the blood, so that water absorbing capacity of the blood is increasing. So blood volume will be also, thereby blood pressure is also increasing. So they are all applicable for aldosterone, whereas C is not applicable. Regarding pancreas, correct statement. Endocrine part. See, pancreas is a mixocrine gland. It consists of both exocrine and endocrine part. The endocrine part is called islets of Langerhans. These are the SNR cells. SNR cells constitute 98%, and the islets constitute only 2% of the tissues of the pancreas. So, pancreatic part of the pancreas consists of islets of Langerhans. That's correct. 1 to 2 million islets are present. Correct. And they will be only 1 to 2% of pancreatic tissue. Correct. So all of them are correct. So option goes to 2. So SNR cells are producing the enzyme, and islets are producing the hormones. That's why it is a mixocrine or a heterocrine gland. It is the second largest gland of our body. Androgens. What are andro? Andro means male. So it is the testosterone, sex hormone, that will be acting on auxiliary sex organs. That is the main function. And in males, muscular growth, a boy on attaining maturity develops masculine features, which is shown by broad shoulder, masculine musculature, correct? Spermatogenesis, libido, male sexual behavior, aggressive male sexual behavior is called libido, influence libido, and it is having anabolic effect, constructive process. It is because of this reason that sports persons are also taking these steroid hormones. They are all abusing these drugs, sports person, because they will be having anabolic and masculine features developing, muscles will be developing stronger and powerful, so they will enhance their efficiency. So all of them are. Which is not a second messenger. What is a second messenger? In response to a protein hormone, see, I will be showing a diagram, still I will tell you now. When a protein hormone comes, the plasma membrane will not allow them to enter in because protein hormones are not miscible in fat. Plasma membrane will be allowing only fat soluble material to enter in. Water soluble material will not be allowed to enter in. So protein hormones will be binding with the receptor present on the surface. So they will be binding with the receptor. So protein hormone receptor complex is formed. Now the plasma membrane will produce secondary messengers. IP3, inositol 3 phosphate. Okay. When P1, P2 is split, it will be producing IP3 and PG. Phosphatidyl, see, 1, 2, 5 phosphate splits into IP3, inositol 3 phosphate and phosphoglycerate. Okay, these two are produced by the splitting of P1, P2. So there are the secondary messengers. CGMP, CAMP, these are all secondary messages. Adenylate cyclase enzyme will be acting on them, and that is responsible for the production of cyclic AMP, cyclic GMP, calcium ions. There are secondary messengers in the case of muscles, muscle contractions, whereas testosterone, it is not, it's a steroid. It is not at all a secondary messenger. So these are all produced by the plasma membrane when a protein hormone get attached to the surface receptors or membrane receptors on the surface of a target cell. Vasopressin secretion cannot be observed in. See, what is vasopressin? Vasopressin is also called ADH, which is responsible for the absorption of sodium, absorption of water from the DCT. This will be secreted when a lot of water has gone out of your body, when you are all dehydrated. Okay, blood volume decreases, blood pressure decreases, etc. So a fall in blood pressure will be causing the vasopressin to be produced. Increase in osmotic pressure in the extracellular fluid. That is, in the extracellular fluid, there is more pressure, whereas in the blood, there is less pressure. So when there is a fall in blood pressure, swelling of osmoreceptors means the osmoreceptors are inactive. When there is a fall in body water level or fluid level, osmoreceptors become active. And when the osmoreceptors are active, vasopressin is released. Here, it is inactive. So, in an inactive condition, vasopressin release cannot be observed. Only when they become active, vasopressin will be released. There is dehydration, a large amount of water. You are sending out copious dilute urine. We have studied in kidney functioning the details of the action of ADHRs. So, we are having diabetes insipidus. Dilute urine is continuously going out. You are subjected to dehydration. Then you will be having your osmoreceptors active. That will be activating the hypothalamus to produce vasopressin. In which pair of hormone does the first cause increased secretion of the second one? ACTH is a hormone produced by the anterior pituitary that acts on adrenal cortex. That adrenal cortex will be producing a large amount of cortisol. Cortisol is a steroid hormone secreted by the middle layer of the, that is the zona fasciculata of the adrenal cortex. So, ACTH increases the production of the second one, correct. FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, is acting on, in males, it is aldosterone, male hormone. It is acting on Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells are producing inhibin. Okay, we'll be studying in the next chapter. Inhibin, it is producing inhibin. Okay, and androgen binding protein, ABP. LH is acting on, it is in insulin. In male, it is acting on Leydig cells, interstitial cells, then aldosterone is produced. In female, it is causing ovulation, corpus luteum is produced, not insulin. Thyroid stimulating hormone act on thyroid. GnRH, gonadotrophic stimulating hormone, act on gonad, causing the release of FSH and LH by the gonads. Okay, so others are wrong. Only A is the correct one. Melatonin. What is this melatonin? Melatonin is a hormone that is responsible for the maintenance of diurnal rhythm. It is a sleep-inducing. Melatonin is a sleep-inducing. When our pineal body, it is produced by the pineal body, is activated, melatonin is produced. Melatonin is suppressed by light. That is why normally in daylight, we won't be sleeping. But when there is no light, we become lethargic, metabolic rate is coming down because this hormone is making its action. So it will be causing sleep-inducing one. So maintains diurnal rhythm, 24-hour cycle, day, light will be suppressing them. And when there is light, we won't be sleeping. When there is no light, we will be having a tendency for sleeping. Sleep-wake cycle. That's why we call this pineal as our biological clock. Melanocyte stimulating hormone. It is produced by the parts intermedia of the pituitary, and it is responsible for regulation of the pigments. It is having not much role in the human beings. Aldosterone. Aldosterone is a hormone of adrenal cortex, and it is responsible for the action on renal tubules, responsible for the absorption of sodium. Thyrocalcitonin. Okay, it is produced by the parafollicular cells of the thyroid, and it will be responsible for what is the action of thyrocalcitonin? It is hypocalcemic, reduces the calcium level in the blood, increases the calcium density in bone. So calcium in the blood are converted into calcium in the bone. So bone becomes denser. Calcium level in the blood decreases. Hypocalcemic one. So the option is box. Regarding hormone, the correct statement. This is what I was telling you. A protein hormone will be combining with the receptor. Okay. Now, as a result of that, we will be having the second generation of the second messengers, like cyclic AMP, calcium, etc., etc. So, intracellular receptors, those which can pass through the plasma membrane, nuclear membrane, they are all either fat-soluble hormones, lipid-soluble hormones, like steroid hormones, or thyroxine. Why thyroxine can pass? Thyroxine is made up of a single amino acid, tyrosine. So they will be absorbed by any cell they can enter in. So these two will have an ability to enter into the cell, enter into the nucleus, and combine with a specific part of the genome. So they are having intracellular or nuclear or genomic receptors. Okay. So intracellular will be regulated the gene hormone. All hormones will be combined with the receptor to form hormone complex, hormone receptor complex, and that will be having physiological effects. Okay, because once they combine with a specific region of the genome, that become active, that part become active, producing mRNA, and based upon the mRNA, a protein will be produced. That protein will be used for producing a hormone or an enzyme, and the metabolic activity will be activated. So we can have all the three for A. Whereas for membrane receptors who cannot pass through protein hormones, who cannot pass through the membrane, they will have surface receptors. Okay, for them, they will be requiring second messengers. So they also will have hormone receptor complex formed on the surface of the membrane, and they will be also affecting physiological changes, and they will generate second messengers. Okay. So the answer is 1 ABC, 2 BCD. Clear? What is hypothalamus? Floor of the diencephalon. So it is responsible for, hypothalamus is responsible for producing two sets of hormones. One, which will be passing through the hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system, reaching the anterior pituitary, thereby controlling the anterior pituitary. Two, they will be transported axonally to the posterior pituitary, where they will be stored, oxytocin, vasopressin. So we are having two sets of hormones produced by hypothalamus. So releasing hormone, gonadotrophic releasing hormone, correct. Release of gonadotrophin. So P31. P31. There is only one option. Immediately we came to the answer. Then thyroid. Thyroid is producing thyroxine T3, T4, which is responsible for the control of the basal metabolic rate. Pituitary. Pituitary is producing LH. See, PTH. What is that? PTH. PTH is parathyroidal hormone. Parathyroid. Okay, polyps hormone. So, pituitary is producing LH. It should be LH. What is the function of formation of corpus luteum? So, parathyroid, PTH, which is responsible for removal of calcium from bone, so that bone dissolution. It is better called as demineralization or resorption. Resorption of calcium from bone. So bones become weak because of the parathyroid hormone, polyps hormone. It is hypercalcemic hormone. Hypercalcemic hormone. Which of the following statements are false or true? Calcitonin regulates the metabolism of calcium. Correct. That's a correct statement. Oxytocin stimulates the concentration of uterine muscle during birth. Yes. That's why it is called oxytocin, comfortable birth or easy birth. Graves' disease. Graves' disease because of the hypersecretion of the thyroid. It is actually an autoimmune disease where our own antibodies are all mimicking. It's a case of molecular mimicry. Our antibodies are mimicking thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH, so that the thyroid is made to produce more thyroxine that will cause exophthalmic goiter. So, Graves' disease is caused by malfunctioning of that adrenal gland. That is wrong. ADH stimulates absorption of water and decrease the urine production. That's correct. That is why it is called anti-diuretic hormone, ADH. It is against the diuresis. What is diuresis? Sending out of dilute urine, plenty of water. That's called diuresis. It is against it. So that also is correct. So only C is wrong. So A, B and D are correct. C is false. The most important role of melatonin. Again, melatonin. See, melatonin is produced by the pineal. Okay, sleep-wake cycle. That is the biological clock. Maintain the normal rhythm of sleep-wake cycle or circadian rhythm or 24-hour cycle. It is having a role in pigmentation, regulate basal metabolic rate, enhances the defense capability, influence the menstrual cycle. It is having a minor role. See, it regulates the basal metabolic rate. It is slowing down actually. That's why we are going to sleep. Okay, when this hormone is suppressed, our metabolic rate is increased, so we become active, we wake up. Okay, so these are all functions, side functions, but main function is sleep-wake cycle. Correct match. In an adrenal gland, we are having 3 layers. The outermost layer is made up of a thin layer of cells called zona glomerulosa, outermost. Then you have a very thick, deep or broad layer, which is also the broadest layer. zona, fasciculata, middle, and the innermost one is made up of reticularis, zona reticularis, which produces such for corticoids. So option is E. Pick out the true statement regarding aldosterone and choose the correct option. Aldosterone is the main mineralocorticoid of our body. Correct. Act mainly on the renal tubules. It also acts on our skin, absorbing sodium from the sweat. It also acts on the alimentary canal and absorption of sodium and water. But that is why it is clearly stated. It is act mainly on. Okay. It also acts on our skin and also on alimentary canal. Absorption of potassium and phosphate. No, it is not correct. It is helping in elimination. Maintenance of electrolytes and body fluid volume. Correct. It is responsible for, that's why it is called mineralocorticoid, that regulate the mineral concentration, regulate osmotic pressure and blood pressure. So we are having A, B, D and E, correct. So the answer is DOLT. C is the wrong one. Increased alertness, you become very much increased in alertness. Pupillary dilation, eye, pupil dilates. So it is an indication, okay. Raising of hairs, erecti, pylorus erecti, the muscles attached with every hair become contracted, so the hair stand, sweating. These are all the physiological process where you are in maximum alertness. You are in emergency situation. That is a situation. So what is emergency hormone? Adrenaline or adrenaline that is poured into your blood. So epinephrine, adrenaline, norepinephrine, noradrenaline, both are having the same effect, but adrenaline is more abundant and stronger than the noradrenaline. That's all. Okay. These two are together called catecholamines. Read the given statement that defines the function of a particular hormone. Stimulates spermatogenesis. So it is in males. Wait. Produce anabolic effect on protein and carbohydrate. So body becomes strong. Muscles develop. Constructive process going on. So that's the testosterone. So androgen is a male. Okay. So it is androgen. Interstitial cells secrete the hormone. That's the clue word. Under the influence of LH. Leydig cells. Leydig cells are producing the testosterone. That's the Leydig cells which are producing testosterone. So the answer is androgen. Pick out the hormone which are involved in RBC production. RBC production is erythropoiesis. Okay. Erythropoiesis is a hormone produced by the kidney. Juxtaglomerular cells are producing erythropoietin, which is mainly involved. Cortisol is also having a role. Thyroxine is also having a role in RBC production, but thymosin, it is not having a role in RBC production, but in the WBC lymphocytes. Melatonin and no adrenaline. So only 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Regarding thymus gland, what is thymus? An irregular bilobed gland. It is active in young one. See, in young one, it is quite small at the time of birth, but gradually enlarges. And it is maximum when you reach the adolescent stage. It is active in young one. At the time of birth, quite small, gradually increasing, reaching maximum, and become inconspicuous after sexual maturity. See, it is having its maximum size when you are all in youth stages. Thereafter, slowly decreasing in size and completely disappearing by the time you reach 50 years. So it is active in young stage. No. It is located on either side of the trachea. No, it is thyroid. This is located in between the heart and the sternum. So it is ventral to the heart and aorta. Ventral to the heart and aorta. It secretes hormone thymosin, correct, which promote immune competence. It is responsible for the maturation of T lymphocytes. That's why they are called T lymphocytes, and also help the maturation of B lymphocytes. It functions as biological clock of the body. Biological clock is our pineal organ. Okay, so only 3 is the correct one. Match the following columns and select the correct options. Pituitary gland. What is that pituitary gland? See, there's a correction you have to make. Either of these cannot be correct. One should be diabetes insipidus and the other should be diabetes mellitus. Okay, so there is some correction. That's why I have written like that. Then only you will be getting an answer. So the pituitary is producing the ADH, and ADH is responsible for curing diabetes insipidus. So it should be 2. Okay. Then thyroid gland. When thyroid gland is producing excess hormone that cause Graves' disease, exophthalmic goiter. Adrenal glands, hyposecretion of aldosterone, Addison's disease, and pancreas. See, pancreas is responsible for the deficiency of the disease cause diabetes mellitus. Okay, there can be only this one, so this may be an incorrect one. I think so. Which one of the following hormone through those synthesis elsewhere is stored and released by the master gland? Who is the master gland? Pituitary is the hypophysis. Pituitary is the master gland. Hypothalamus is the master of the master gland. It produces hormone and they are brought through their axon, stored in the posterior pituitary and released. So oxytocin, vasopressin. So which of the following hormones are antidiuretic hormone, ADH, vasopressin, oxytocin? There is no oxytocin, so this is the right answer. Produced by the hypothalamus, brought to the posterior pituitary and stored there. What is Graves' disease? I told you it's a case of molecular mimicry. Our own antibodies are attacking or mimicking actually the thyroid stimulating hormone. So the thyroid will mistake it as the signal coming from pituitary and will activate its glands. So it will producing more and more hyper secretion of the thyroxines will be the result. That will be resulting in exophthalmic goiter. That is called an autoimmune disease. Graves' disease is caused due to the hyper secretion of the hyposecretion. Graves' disease is not because of the hyposecretion of adrenal. It is because of thyroid. And here it is hyposecretion. It should be hypersecretion. It may be a spelling mistake. Otherwise, there cannot be any answer because it is not because of the adrenals. Okay, that's a mistake. It should be hypersecretion. Name a peptide hormone which act mainly on hepatocytes, liver cells, adipocytes, fat storing. So glucose is converted and stored in glycogen in liver or as fat in adipocytes. So what is that? The clue is enhances the cellular glucose uptake. So cells can take up the glucose and produce energy. It is insulin. So insulin is a must for cells to utilize glucose. So glucose utilization is under the influence of insulin. It's a peptide hormone. 51 amino acids, like 21, 30 alpha beta chains. You have studied it. Now, the posterior pituitary gland is not a true endocrine gland. Why? Because it is not producing any hormone of its own. is simply a storing. It's only a go down where the secretions produced by the hypothalamus are transported and stored. It is just a releasing one. Okay. So it only stores and releases the hormones, oxytocin and vasopressin produced by the hypothalamus, which are transported them through their axon bundles or tracts. Again, GnRH, a hypothalamic hormone. Hypothalamus means pituitary, anterior pituitary, need in reproduction, act on. Where is it acting on? This GnRH. Hypothalamus is producing GnRH, transported through the hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system, reaching the anterior pituitary. It is reaching the anterior pituitary. So, anterior pituitary gland and stimulates FSH and then LH. So, anterior pituitary is producing these two gonadotrophic hormones. These gonadotrophic hormones are FSH and LH, produced by the anterior pituitary. So, it acts on anterior pituitary and stimulate FSH and LH. Oxytocin is the posterior pituitary secretion. It is produced by the hypothalamus. So, this should be the answer. Okay, this is the correct one. This is wrong. Hypersecretion of growth hormone in adult. Suppose the growth hormone GH is produced even after becoming adult. Remember, our growth will stop. That's why we are not growing continuously. Our height will be remaining same once we attain the adolescent stage. Why? We have become growth, we have attained their maximum size, then growth is stopped. What is the reason for that? Even if that growth hormone is produced in excess, that cause growth of certain parts like extremities of the lower limb, jaw, etc. Acromegaly, that condition is called acromegaly. Why? The increase in height is not possible. If it is in infants, children, then the person will be attaining higher and higher height. The person continues to grow. Then it will result in gigantism. So, gigantism in children and acromegaly in adult. Why? Because in human beings and in other animals, the long bones are having two parts. The middle is called epiphysis. The ends are called the ends are called epiphysis, and the middle part is called diaphysis. In the epiphysis, we are having soft bones, which will be having a cartilaginous cap. A cap is formed. This is called capping. Once a cap is formed, a cartilaginous cap, growth is stopped. It cannot grow further. That is why even after attaining the adulthood, you are having hypersecretion of growth hormone. The long bones are not increasing in length. That's why our height is not increasing. Okay. Only those which are not at all having that capping, that alone will grow. That's why the extremities of the limbs, lower jaw, etc. will be alone growing. Clear? So, we are having epiphysis made up of soft bones, diaphysis made up of very hard, dense bones. Okay. So, growth hormone become inactive in adult? No, it is not because inactivity. Epiphyseal plate close after adolescence. This is the epiphyseal plate, cartilaginous plate. Okay. A capping. A cap is formed that will close the growth so that now further growth or increase in length is possible. This is the reason why our height is not increasing even when excess of growth hormone is produced in adults. In children, this capping is not happening. That's why it continues to grow. So their height will be increasing. So children will be growing to extraordinary height. That is gigantism. You understand it? So the answer is 2. Which of the following is an amino acid derivative hormone? A single amino acid, tyrosine. Okay. Estradiol is a steroid hormone. Ecdysone. What is this ecdysone? Molting hormone produced in insects. We have studied in cockroach. Ecdysone is a molting hormone. It is a steroid hormone. Epinephrine, adrenaline. Adrenaline is a catecholamine produced from the removal of amine radical from tyrosine. That's correct. Estriol, estradiol, etc. Different types of estrogens. We call it as estrogens. There are different types, E1, E2, E3, etc. Okay, so estrol. So this is a steroid hormone. All these three are steroid, and this is epinephrine. Epinephrine and norepinephrine are called catecholamines. Okay, they are all formed by the amine radicals of tyrosine. And again, we are having similar question. Insulin. We are having again diabetes insipidus and diabetes mellitus. Now you understand it correctly. So insulin, it is responsible for, if there is shortage of insulin, we will be having diabetes mellitus. So insulin, A will be diabetes mellitus. Fine. Option G is not this one. Okay, we'll wait. Thyroxine. Thyroxine deficiency causes goiter. So this one. So here you'll be having a confusion. Insulin should be diabetes mellitus, and thyroxine deficiency, that will be resulting in goiter. Corticoids. What are corticoids? Hormones of the cortex. Addison's disease, because of the deficiency of aldosterone. And when growth hormone is in excess, we will be having acromegaly. So 5, 4, 1, 3. See, there is no correct option like that. Okay, you will be having 5, 4, 1, 3. So this is the right answer. 5, 4, 1. So option goes to not, the marking is wrong. The answer should be 2. Clear? See, understand the difference between diabetes insipidus and mellitus. Insipidus is dilute urine going on because of the deficiency of ADH, and diabetes mellitus is because of shortage of or deficiency of insulin. Okay, so the answer is second one, not this one. And coming to the last question of the day, how does steroid hormones influence the cellular? Remember, steroid hormones are fat soluble. They are lipophilic and hydrophobic, not soluble in water. And plasma membrane will be allowing only fat soluble materials to enter in. So steroid hormones can enter the plasma membrane. Okay, it can enter into the cell. It can also cross the nuclear membrane. Okay, because it is fat soluble and can combine with a specific site on the genome. So it requires intracellular receptors or genomic receptors, okay, or nuclear receptors. Then once it become attached with, it become a hormone receptor complex, and that will activate that segment of that part of the DNA. It produces a specific mRNA based upon which it produces a protein. That protein will be used for the production of an enzyme, and thus an enzyme will be catalyzed, and metabolic rate will be enhanced. This is the way of action. Remember, steroid hormones are slow in action because it requires a lot of these events to occur. Then only it will be increasing the metabolism. Okay, but though it is very slow in action, it will be very, very long lasting. Protein hormones are quick in action, but their action will be lasting only for a short time. Whereas this one will be lasting for long time. So, how does the steroid hormones influence binding to DNA and forming a gene hormone complex? Okay, they are all binding with the genome. Activating a cyclic, no, it is for secondary messenger for protein hormones. Using aquaporin channels, no. Changing the permeability of the cell membrane, never. So the answer is 1. Hope you will be understanding the main concepts regarding the different types of hormones, their effects, and way of their action. These are all the most important things from this chapter. And with that, I come to the conclusion of the discussion of last chapter of our first year topics. So I am winding up for the day and we'll meet next time with another chapter. So thank you very much.